Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of When Love Comes, the podcast. I'm your host, April Allen. I am a certified relationship coach, and I am on this crazy journey to help people to heal from heartbreak, to create a life that they love, and to create and maintain the healthy relationships that they deserve. So if you are new to the podcast, thank you so much for being here. If you are a regular, thanks for coming back. One of the reasons why I created this podcast is after three failed marriages, I knew a few things to be true. One, I knew that I knew nothing about healthy relationships. I hadn't been taught about them. At that point, I hadn't figured them out. And I think that's a lot of our story. And then the second thing is, I didn't have a lot of resources to learn about healing and healthy relationships. So that is really why this podcast exists as a resource for those of you who are navigating, whether it's heartbreak, whether it's dating, preparing to date, whether it is a marriage, whether it's a long-term relationships, but to really help us to understand and navigate what those look like. So my guest today, I am super excited about. I met her virtually just a few weeks ago through her husband. So he and I take spin class together, and he had mentioned that his wife may be a good candidate for the podcast. And so after I talked to her, I was like, yes, 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 we've got to have a great conversation. So Charlie Sykes is a pastor. She is an amazing woman of God. She is a leader, not just in her church, but also in her community. And so she founded something called She AZ, which stands for Sisters Helping Each Other. And I love this because I feel like in our society and culture, so many times we are tearing down each other. And so I love the work that she is doing to help women to reconnect, to build confidence, and to lift each other up. So I want to welcome to the show, Charlie.
Good morning, y'all.
I'm so
Hey.
excited to talk to you. Thank you for giving up your time today for this.
Of course.
Um, so I always start with one question, and this wasn't on the list that I sent over because I like it to be kind of a spontaneous answer. But where did you get your idea, examples, concepts of relationships?
Oh, that's good. I think, after being in a personal relationship with my husband for almost 33 years, and then just walking the earth for 52, right? I have a little bit of experience with relationships. And so it wasn't anything that I really had to think about, search it out, right? Because life is the best teacher of all things. And so, having good sister relationships, having bad sister relationships has kind of taught me, right? Um, out of a space in my own life of where I desired great sisterhood, um, I wanted to create a space that was free for women to come together. Not every woman has biological sisters. And some women that do have biological sisters don't have biological sisters, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Because some of us come from broken relationships in our family. Some of us come from broken relationships, whether it be through the workplace. And some of us come through broken relationships with other sisters where that season may have been up. And so I wanted to create a space for women to be able to come together who are like minded. I'm going to repeat that statement one more time, who are like minded, to be
Hmm.
able to come together for support, whether that be from a spiritual perspective, whether that be from a natural perspective, or even in the marketplace perspective, to glean from one another. Because I believe that we as women, we have something that each and every one of us can glean from.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. You said something that I want to dig a little bit deeper on. We talk about, those relationships growing up. So, as a child, as a young adult, what type of relationships were you surrounded with?
Oh man, I was born into a huge family, April. huge, huge family, right? I have two biological sisters. Um, I have countless cousins who are also sisters, right? So it wasn't a shortage for me on sister relationships by no means. Um, One thing I will drill into was were they healthy relationships, right? And so because I grew up in a large family, organically as a child, I was very introverted. And so I automatically had this strong desire for God at an early age. But the environment that I grew up in wasn't conducive to grow that relationship for God. So let me expound just a little bit, right? Um, I grew up seeing older cousins join gangs,
Mhm.
be the largest drug dealers in that community, right? Um, Stepfathers being a large drug dealer, right? So God was the furthest thing from that equation. And at times, the environment that I grew up in was abusive. And so, again, having a strong desire and really willingness for other women who've come out of traumatic past, who've been in abusive relationships, who came out of abusive families, to come into sisters helping each other as a place of refuge is really, really important to me, right? And so understanding past trauma affects sister relationships is something that we really delve into quite immensely, and that we really need to heal from, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because as a relationship coach, the immediate thought that people go to when I share what I do is romantic relationships. And that
Oh,
is
yeah.
part of what I do, right? But I really want to be a resource for people for relationships, not just in love, but in life. And so that's one of the reasons
Mhm.
why you and I are having this conversation, not so much heavily on the romantic relationships, but just relationships in general. And I 100% agree with you that the way that we are raised shapes who we become
Mhm.
in our decision making. And I remember after my last divorce, going to therapy for real for the first time. And she
Mhm.
asking me, like, tell me about your childhood. And I was like, I'm just trying not to get divorced again. And she's like, yeah, tell me about your childhood. And childhood being full of whether it was abuse, being raised by an addict, different traumas and things. But not only did that shape those romantic relationships, but it shaped how much I trusted, whether it was leadership, whether it was
Mhm.
other women in my life because of the things I had gone through with my mother. And so, how we
Yeah.
are raised has such an effect on every relationship in our life, not just romantic, but with those girlfriends and things like that. And so
Mhm.
I want to start with, so you're in ministry. I've been in ministry for, I would say most of my life. I got saved in Germany at the age of 12 and I started acting like it at 23. Um, that's the way I like to describe it like that first. I had fire
Yeah.
insurance the first 10 years. Then I started acting like it. But I know that being in leadership, so this is whether ministry, leadership on your job, just leadership in your home, but being in
Mhm.
leadership can come with these kind of unique nuances to relationships, right? So, being a woman in leadership, how do you approach your relationships?
Ooh, leadership is such a simplistic word, but it has so many layers of complexity, right? Leadership has essentially taught me that access is sacred and not automatic, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, access is sacred. And so being in the forefront, whether that be the forefront of your family, the forefront in the workplace, um, the forefront of your community, the forefront of your church, is that not everyone gets access to you. There is something organic about being able to pull back and love on yourself so you can be the best version of yourself to others, right? Leadership has taught me that love has to be stewarded and not spent recklessly. See, when you walk in a level of responsibility, especially as a woman in church, you learn that not everyone gets that entitlement on the same level of access to your life, right? Not everyone, April, gets the same level of access to my heart, and not everyone gets the same level of access to my time. I've learned to value alignment. Ooh, that is so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yes. Alignment is key, right? And this is where we get hung up, whether it be with a significant other or in sister relationships or in family dynamics, right?
Yeah.
You have to look at alignment over attachment, right?
Yeah.
Fruit over familiarity, right? And healthy relationships they absolutely must be built on honor. They have to be built on clarity. They have to be built on responsibility and not emotional dependency, right? So leadership is something that is so sacred, right? That we don't automatically think that you're entitled to all these things just because you know who I am, right? Let's pull it back a little bit. Hey, rock all four seasons with your girl before you think you automatically have access to every area of my life. And what do I mean by that? All four seasons. Listen, in the summer season, when you're first meeting me, man, it's fiery hot, right? Same thing with the spring, it's blooming and we're discovering one another for the first time. And man, then the fall sets in and it cools off a little bit, right? And then I start seeing some things, right? And then the winter season, man, I may have just gone through an argument with you, right? But will that relationship still recover in a winter season? And then I'm going to drop a really spiritual nugget here. My fifth season, due season, right?
Yeah.
Girl, come on, April. Yes. Is it the time? Is it the place?
Mhm.
Ecclesiastics 3:1. There's a time for
Yes.
all things, right?
All.
And so it may be your time, but is it my God time to be in relationship with you? So relationship and again, leadership, it all intermingles, right? And so we have to be careful of how much access that we're giving to people right off the bat. But I'm a champion of relationships. I want to see them grow. I want to see people win. But let's make sure that we're entering those relationships in the appropriate stand from the appropriate view.
Yes. 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 I love. There's a book by Pastor Darius Daniels, whom I followed for years. Love him. I will
Mhm.
get a chance to finally go to his church at the end of January. I'll be
Oh
in this area. I know. I'm so excited. But he wrote a book years ago called Relational Intelligence. And
yeah.
I
Yes.
really loved how in this book he kind of broke down um, really that not every relationship in your life is the same or should be the same, and not everyone should get the same access to
Come
you
on.
in
Yeah.
relationships, right? So you might have a person that I've got what I call my group of crazy, Mag 7. So it's seven of us, seven ladies. We've been friends for, gosh, maybe 10, 15 years. We're in
Love
business,
that.
we're mom, for all the things, right? This is that group that I could text at 2 a.m. This is that group, right? That I'm like, y'all, I'm going through. I need y'all, right? But then I also have these acquaintances, right, that I might not talk to but once a year, twice a year,
True.
right? And so I think it is key to understand where people belong in your life and that not everyone gets the same access. But I want to talk about something that you said, alignment, right? What does healthy alignment look like in relationships?
I have often coined a phrase um, called spirit suckers. Mm.
Mhm.
When you have individuals that pull everything out of you, and it is only one sided, they are a spiritual sucker, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
if they only want to know about your business and what you have going on so they can weaponize you on the back end, that's a spirit sucker. Mm.
yeah,
When you give to an individually financially, and they don't know how to manage their funds, or understand kingdom finance in a way that's healthy, that's a spirit sucker, right? When there is an individual that can't be with you in the valleys of your life, but they only want to climb with you when you're on the mountaintop, that's a
yeah,
spirit sucker. And so alignment, right, means that you come into total agreement and partnership with your sister, with your significant other in all seasons of your life, right? Listen, I've had women that have been in my life for over 45 years. Oh, right? Over 45 years. And when I say that it is a God relationship, it is God aligned, because we've been through some really difficult times together, right? Whether it be grief, whether it be during the change of life, having children, um, getting overly busy, not connecting often, but then you can come right back together as though you've not missed a beat, right? And still be in support of one another. That's true alignment, right? When you can celebrate one another's success, right?
yeah, yeah,
Alignment, okay, right? So it doesn't matter the title, right? It doesn't matter the social status, as long as you have those healthy relationships that can celebrate you at all times. And then to be an encouragement when times are difficult,
yeah,
alignment, right? And so we want to make sure that we know the difference between alignment and spiritual suckers, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that especially for women, um, we are emotional beings. God bless us. And sometimes we do get caught up in the emotion, the feelings of a
Mm,
relationship and not the fruit. And so I used to have this saying, follow the fruit and not your feelings. And what I mean by that is, right, the word says that you will know a tree by its fruit. So if someone is telling
right.
you that they're an apple tree, but all you see is lemons, right?
Yes.
But they're telling you I'm an apple tree, but all you see is lemons, right? You need to question that relationship. You need to question that person, right? Because what you're showing me is contradictory to what you're telling me. We
Mm-hmm.
both have daughters. And so one of the things, my daughter is 17, almost 18. And so I have watched over, especially her high school life, these
Mm-hmm.
different relationships that have evolved. And I learned early on, Charlie, I don't know about you, but like freshman year, I used to get so like committed to her relationships. And then it was like
Oh
one day
gosh.
I'm friends with so and so, and then the next day I hate her. And I'm like, well, what happened to so and so? I liked so and so. And so I just learned to not get I didn't get committed, right? Like I didn't get committed. But that is what happens when our feelings kind of direct the direction of our relationships. And so
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about something that this word that sometimes can be a blessing and then sometimes for others it can be a curse, but boundaries, right? So let's talk about boundaries in relationships. What does that look like?
Oh my goodness. Um, ah, I have to pause on that one, Miss April. You took the wind out of my sail, right?
Yeah, because
Because
that's something that we don't talk about enough, right?
ooh, people will pull uh, uh, everything out of you, right? They'll often pull what God has reserved for covenant.
Yeah.
So good, right? There is something in having an opportunity to recharge and reconnect back for you. I'll use what you said in the very beginning, right? After you went through your divorce and then you went to counseling, right? Um, uh, I too recently had gone into counseling for grief, right? Of my mother transitioning within the last year and a half. And, we all present as strong women, like, oh, we got it, and especially for me, April, I'm a worker bee. I'll just keep working,
Yep.
right? And so it's something that the counselor asked me. She didn't ask me about who my mother was. She didn't ask me about, her position on motherhood. She asked me about my childhood, like you, right?
Yep. Hmm.
And so I kept saying, why is she asking me about my childhood? I'm here for grief therapy, right? But then she started going down this trail, and what I soon understood is that she wanted me to reconnect with the little girl that's on the inside, right? And what I've learned through childhood is that there was not healthy boundaries created for me as a child. So I didn't understand what those boundaries were as an adult. Oh, that was so good.
Yes.
I had to then understand the patterns, right? And so each individual, you have to be able to recognize patterns and signs. Our government recognizes patterns and signs. When you drive, there's stop signs and yield signs for a reason. And likewise, for us, there are stop signs and yield signs for a reason that we need to create those boundaries. I've learned to guard not just my personal time, excuse me, but I've also learned, excuse me, how to guard my marriage. I
Yeah.
guard it on purpose because it's worth protecting, right? Even in my marriage, April, um, my husband and I, we committed to a covenant agreement, and there
Mhm.
is nothing else worth losing more than a covenant. And so we had to create these boundaries for work, for marriage, right? For family, and then for our own intimacy, right?
Yeah.
I can't show up for my husband if I'm burned out. I can't show up as an executive at work if I'm burned out. I can't show up for my girlfriends if I'm burned out, right? And I know for Charlie that when Charlie is tired and she hasn't had time to pour love back into her and to give her time, then I make mistakes. Then I get moody, right? And
Yeah.
then relationships break down, right? And when there is a void in communication, negativity fills the space. And so I want to be intentional about communicating to others what those boundaries are. So that way, neither party is offended later.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so good. Boundaries teach people how to treat us, and they
Come
teach
on.
us how to treat us. When you talk about going back to childhood, many of us were not taught healthy boundaries, right?
Correct.
We weren't taught how to say no to things. My friends know me. I say no very quickly, like almost too quick sometimes. But when it comes to protecting my heart, right? The word says to guard our hearts. And so the best way to guard our hearts is through healthy boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
We think about boundaries sometimes as this huge wall that we put up. That ain't healthy, y'all. It's not. We think about boundaries as being hyper independent. Hyper independence is a trauma response. That's not healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries is taking the time to pour into yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself for others, right? Like you said, whether it's being a mother, being a wife, being a sister, all of those things requires that you have healthy boundaries. And what that may look like, you set this, clarifying your boundaries, writing them suckers
Mm-hmm.
down, right? I don't know about y'all, but I go to the grocery store and forget everything in my head. So write them down, communicating the boundaries, right? So people cannot read your mind. There are times when I coach people, and they'll say, and the big one is with romantic relationships. So let's say I'm dating someone, I no longer want to date them, and I just stop responding, right? But this person keeps calling. Have you communicated the boundary? And then the third thing really is to champion our boundaries. And what does that look like? That means we have to uphold the boundary. So the person who says, well, I no longer want contact with this person, but you respond to their text, but you answer their phone calls, that is not upholding your boundary. And the problem or the challenge with that is when we uphold our boundaries, it will sometimes hurt us. We will sometimes lose things. So when we talk about boundaries in relationships, there may be some relationships that God is calling you to let go of. And you're going to have to do that through boundaries. And yes, you might be lonely for a period. You might be sad. That's okay. Loneliness will pass. You'll be okay. It is a natural human emotion, right? And so when I think about boundaries, I think about another thing that you said, right? It's the pattern. Understanding what got
Mm-hmm.
us here, whatever that relationship, whether it is with a platonic relationship, family is huge, right? So those boundaries when it comes to the holidays, we're just coming out of the holidays. And I don't know how many people I talk, oh, I hate that I got to go to my parents' house. Like, well, don't go, right? Like, we are responsible for guarding our hearts.
Yeah. Love that.
So, I want to talk about um, marriage, right? So, marriage is a great place when we talk about healthy relationships. So, you have been married over 30 years. Congratulations. Woo, woo, woo. And I celebrate you also with the caveat that longevity does not necessarily equal healthy relationships. But in talking
Mm-hmm.
to you, getting to know your husband, I truly believe that your relationship is what I would define as healthy clinically and, through experience. So what are some of the things that you do in your relationship to keep it healthy?
Wow. Um, we communicate a lot, right? We spend a lot of time together. We're intentional to ensure that we're taking quarterly breaks. Some people may call them vacations. I call them breaks, right?
Yeah.
Where we totally disconnect and just come back together and refocus, right? At the beginning of the year, our quarterly break is generally centered around finance, right? Listen, I don't care how many years you've been together, April. If the finances aren't right, there's nothing sexy in a marriage relationship. Come on,
Yeah.
right? And so we want to make sure that from a financial perspective that we have our business meetings yearly, right? What is the goalpost for this year, right? And then another break may be, hey, what is God saying to you in terms of the direction of our family for this next season. What direction are we going within, right? The next break can be centered around the intimacy level, right? Listen, where our bodies are aging, right? We're getting
Yeah.
older. What we did in our 20s, you may not be a fan of it in your 50s. So,
Right.
hey, let's communicate on that level. What is your attraction level? What is your love language, right? Because our love language can also change, right?
Mhm.
And so we want to make sure that we aren't abandoning the covenant agreement that we both signed up for, right? Just because we want an emotional high. Oh, that was good. And so we
Yeah.
want to make sure that we catch up in those seasons, right? And that we understand covenant language, right? And remind each other not only of God's promises for our marriage, but what that looks like for us individually. And so the other break, right, within the year is how can I support you um, individually for this next season, right? Because every marriage, I don't care if you've been married for 5 minutes or 50 years, right? Not everything is done together. Individually, we have to be able to support one another and our own goals individually. There's been times in which uh, uh, I've stepped back, right, to support my husband in multiple business ventures because he's an entrepreneur. Oh gosh, he loves it. And listen, if I had to do that, I would be I would be a poor person, y'all. I'd be so poor because I'm not motivated to be an entrepreneur, but he
Yeah.
is. But vice versa, I thrive in corporate America, right?
Yeah.
If my husband had to reverse the role, he would not succeed. He would not succeed. But how do we support one another's goals, desires, dreams, aspirations, right? So I think coupled with all of that put together, that's how we've been able to really survive and learn and navigate through the various seasons to keep our love fresh.
Yeah, I love that. I love the intentionality. So, one of the terms that I don't care for as much is when I hear people say things like marriage is hard, marriage is work. And the reason why I say that is I believe that marriage should be intentional,
Mm-hmm.
is because in many of cases where we are in unhealthy relationships, we are slower to make changes because it's almost like, well, this is the way it's supposed to be. So if you grew up hearing things like, well, marriage is hard, right? You may have some hard moments, but my God, if your marriage is hard every single day, you might need
Mm-hmm.
to rethink that. And that goes with any relationship, right? And
True.
so what I'm hearing you say is the intentionality of
Mm-hmm.
marriage, the intentionality of relationships, of we are going to have our business meeting when we don't feel like it. We are going to talk about intimacy when we don't feel like it. I have a friend of mine, one of my best friends, and she's okay with me sharing this, but she got married 5 years ago, and it was her fourth marriage. And one of the things that we talked about was like doing things differently. Now, let me say this: the first three, them wasn't of God, so I'm not knocking them three because they wasn't of God. This one here, this one here, sent straight from heaven. But one of the things that
Mm-hmm.
she wanted to do was be more intentional in her relationship. So they go on a date every Saturday night, whether they feel like it, like, if they have money for a fancy restaurant, they got money for drive through, whatever it looks like, but they go on a date every Saturday night. And it is one of the things that they have done to be intentional about their marriage. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
is the key word with almost any relationship is intentionality, right? It is
Mm-hmm.
we are going to make this commitment and we are going to do what it takes to see this through. My parents have been married, I'm 48, 47 years. And I have watched them evolve over the years, right? And I have watched their roles kind of shift and change and different things happening. But one of the things that I can say is they are intentional about their relationship, whatever that looks like for them. And so I think
Yeah.
having those check-ins, very important. The same thing with those platonic, those sisterhoods, is having those
Mhm.
check-ins, right? Hey girl, where are we? Hey, let's go to lunch. Let's talk about what's going on with us. Being able to be vulnerable enough to say, "Hey, I feel like something is off. Like what you feeling? What am I feeling?"
Mhm.
What I want to talk about next, though, is something that I don't think that many of us have been, and I don't want to use the word trained, but trained to do, is to
Mhm.
leave a relationship. So,
Yeah.
what does that look like? When is that a good time to walk away? And not just like I'll speak a little bit kind of on marriages and things like that, but just in general, what does it look like when it's time to say goodbye?
Wow. It's difficult, right? For any relationship to come to the end of, you know, its season, if you will. And um, one of the things that I totally understand is that fruit never lies,
Mhm.
even when words sound great.
Yes.
um, I watch the fruit in individuals, you know, when the relationship consistently becomes draining, when the relationship is always centered around confusion, when the relationship once had honor turns into dishonor, right? Without repentance, without me telling you, girl, you gonna say you sorry? Like, I call my husband Chocolate Drop, right? Chocolate Drop,
Hmm.
you gonna say you're sorry? If I have to tell you to say you're sorry, man, that's flags, right? It's
Yeah.
time to what I would classify as not leaving, but stepping back lovingly, right? I often have this catchphrase: "What's understood don't have to be explained." I'm not the type of person that I'm going to explain to you why I'm stepping back. If you don't understand why I'm stepping back, then why do I need to explain it to you, right? Um,
Yeah.
One of the things that I will share is that um, trust the discernment on the inside, right? The Lord is showing you these signs for a reason. And so let me speak, if you will, prophetically in saying discernment isn't harsh, it's protective, right?
Hmm.
Protect you, protect your mental, protect your physical, protect your spiritual, protect your emotional, right? Protect your financial, because um, even though they may say, "Yes, I'm committed to you," when actions turn and change, you sense it. And the Lord shows you these things for a reason. Oftentimes, we are overly committed to relationships that we don't need to be committed in, right? Um,
Yes.
People have a way of trying to lure you in into different things that it's not your season to be in, and so you want to be able to trust that, right? Protect you at all costs and just lovingly step back. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so good. And that what you said applies to any relationship. I think whether it
Yeah.
is friendship, family,
Mm.
romantic, and even business. I
Hmm.
am very much like your husband. I am the entrepreneur. I have been in corporate America and at a very high level. And I tell you, I love my entrepreneurship journey. It
Mm.
is tough. And I want to be married to a lifer. I want someone who gets a paycheck every 2 weeks and health insurance
Yeah,
and all
that's
the
me.
things and
Debbie
all
me.
the things, right? Like, give me the guy who wants to go to work at 9, come home at yes. because as an entrepreneur, we are all over the place and I love it. I love every bit of the journey. Um, but when we talk about walking away from relationships, I had someone years ago ask me, what I thought a healthy relationship was. And I had this acronym called SAFE, and it is securing, affirming, fruitful, and empowering, right?
Mhm.
And there's a little bit that goes with all that. But basically, when your relationship starts to feel unsafe, when compromise starts to threaten your core values, meaning this relationship is now threatening my peace, my
Mhm.
safety, and that's whether that's emotional safety, physical safety, financial safety. When a relationship is starting to threaten the safety of your life, it is time for you to walk away. And that can
Absolutely.
mean as simple as I am stressed all the time. I am not sleeping. Listen to your body, listen to Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
um I tell people all the time that the 3 times that I was married, one, I never wanted to be a wife. That's a whole nother conversation. But whole nother conversation. But two, God told me to walk away from the first two and I didn't listen. The first time was an audible voice. I was literally walking down the aisle and God was like, "Don't do this." And I was like, "I got it. I'm good." Like, we love each other. Um,
Mm.
the second time, his mom took me to lunch and was like, "My son isn't ready. Do not marry him." I got it. I'm good. We love each other. And so the last one, there was no quote unquote warning, right? But there were things that I saw that threatened my core values. And so I remember going through that divorce, which is the one that was like the turning point. And I was walking outside one day and I was like, "God, I'm mad at you. You could have stopped this." And you know how we do, right? Like,
Mhm.
"God, you." And God was like, "I didn't say anything this time because you didn't listen the first 2 times." And I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay." And so we have to, going back to guarding your heart, we have to listen to
Yeah.
that small, still voice. We have to listen to the way that our body is responding to trauma. We have to listen and make that decision that this relationship it's not healthy. And this could be physically healthy, right?
Yeah.
I say this, I am not an advocate for divorce. Let me be very clear. I am an advocate for marriage. My journey, unfortunately, is not unique, but it's my journey, and people choose divorce for various reasons. What I can say, though, and I speak to those people who might be in unhealthy, whether it's marriages or just you're dating someone, and there is a threat to your safety and you are staying because marriage is a sin. I mean, divorce is a sin and God won't, right? There are so many people who have lost their lives for staying in relationships that were not safe because
Yeah.
of what we were conditioned to believe. And I
Mm.
always like to preface that because I still come across people who are in these relationships that are destroying them, right? But I'm going to stay because of love or because of all these different things. So, wanted to make sure we touched on that because that's just something I don't think we talk about enough is that
Yeah.
it is okay to leave a relationship that is causing you harm. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Absolutely.
So, Charlie, I want to close with you telling us a little bit more about She AZ. When I saw that, my heart was just like, "Oh, I love this." So tell us a little bit more about why you started that and even how women can connect with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, April. And I've enjoyed this conversation today. Right? Goodness, I feel like I can just talk to you all day. So part two during lunch,
Yes.
right? Yes, sisters helping each other was birthed through a place of me needing more sisterhood. Right? I had moved to Arizona about 6 years ago, and I didn't know anyone. At the time, I worked from home. I rarely left home. My only social connection that I had was through my husband. And although I love my sexy chocolate drop, oh, y'all, I love my chocolate drop. Okay. Okay. Um, but I needed more, right? I needed good girlfriends locally that I can connect with. And so I have girlfriends, but they just live abroad, right? Throughout the country. And so I wanted good girlfriends that would call me up and say, "Girl, what you doing? Come on, let's go get coffee. Girl, you've been in the house for too long. Girl, you've been playing first lady for too long. Let's steal you away," right? And I needed that, right? I didn't understand how much I needed it, and so it created this space, right, for women to just simply come together to connect with one another. And then it morphed, April, into having these yearly women's conferences, right? And so no matter which church you belong to, you can still come, right, to get ministered to. And then now it's morphed into a monthly masterclass session that we have the third Saturday of every month at 10 o'clock Arizona time, right? Where you can catch me on Facebook Live just talking about random topics that only pertain to women, right? Because we want to make sure that we're ministering to the total man. We want to package you back up, right? Whether you're in marriage relationship, no matter if you're single, right? What does singlehood look like for you? What does it look like if you're trying to climb the corporate ladder? How do we partner with you to get you some key skills to develop in the marketplace or just in your community every single day? And so you can connect with me through various social platforms, whether that be at our church, which is called Love Cathedral Christian Center, which we're based in Mesa, Arizona, 4930 East Main Street. Our services are generally held every Sunday at 1 o'clock, or on my Facebook platform, She AZ, or even Instagram, where you can just learn about upcoming events that we have going on. And so, hey, if you are a sister locally where you desire some relationship, listen, make sure you click and follow me and subscribe, right? Even to our YouTube pages for She AZ. And it would be my pleasure to be able to connect with you and wrap my arms around you and let you know that you are not in it by yourself. Listen, and always remember this: we are stronger together.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for being obedient, for starting that. I know we just connected over the last few months, so I'm looking forward to supporting what you're doing through She AZ and spreading the word and, whatever God has for us. But I don't think that we met by coincidence by far. So thank you
Absolutely.
again for being here. It was an honor just to have this conversation. And yes, we will have to follow up and do more over lunch because I like food. So.
Me too. Me too. Probably too much.
Right, which is why I go to cycling class so I can eat things that I probably shouldn't.
Understood. And I will join y'all in y'all
Oh
cycle class
God.
one day.
Yes, yes. Well, all right, y'all. Thank you again for joining us today for this episode. I hope that you guys were able to get some nuggets about how to do relationships differently, right? Like I said in the beginning, we weren't really taught how to do healthy relationships. And so I hope that listening to me, listening to Charlie today, that you guys have learned something. Get out there, connect with Charlie. I will have the links in the show notes. This is something that we need, especially here locally in Arizona. So if you're local, make sure you connect with her. If you have not, go back and listen to season 1 and season 2, because y'all, we in season 3 already, and I can't believe it, but I'm excited. So make sure you guys get the resources available to you so that you and I are ready when love comes.